Hey YouTube, Mark here from Pix Motion. This is part one of a podcast that I recorded the other day. My friend Greg and I, Greg from Digital Pixel Cafe, we are, going to talk about the PlayStation 4, 4.5 or 4K, however you want to call it. And we're going to talk a little bit about the upgrades that Xbox One might be coming out with, as well as the NX and 4K television, just to kind of throw that in there. Since this whole upgrade cycle is kind of why it's even being talked about, everyone's kind of like on a 4K frenzy right now. So, um, anyways, enjoy. So, Greg, with all this commotion going on with these, console upgrades, and you got some people on one corner like praising it, like, "Oh, see, I fucking knew it. I knew it. They were gonna do it because they released the consoles and they're like underperforming," which is actually true. I mean,
Yeah.
I just read that Quantum Break runs at 720p.
Yep.
I mean, now from what I've seen, some of the tricks they're doing, actually, it looks pretty damn good.
It yeah it does.
But it's still 720p. That's kind of shocking, and it's supposed to be like the era of 1080p, although 4K is not like, well, with PCs, it's been here for a while, and,
Sort
now
of.
you got, well, for those who want to spend big bucks.
Yep.
But see, that's the thing, too. Like, I'm not, I don't want to buy a 4K TV just yet, so. I don't know.
See,
I don't even know if the specs finalized. They're supposed to have the HDR and all this other crap, and I don't want to be the early adopter. Like 2 years ago, and I'm gonna buy $3,000-$4,000 4K TV, and hey, guess what? Now it's obsolete because you can't do HDR.
yeah. Well, I do have a 4K TV. Um, I did wait a while. There's certain things I was watching for, specifically the refresh rates, because the earlier TVs were only 30 hertz, and
Yeah,
that's,
God.
I don't know if a lot of these people that want 4K gaming realize that those early 4Ks can only do like 30 frames per second because of that 30 hertz. That sucks. Like everybody
Well,
wants 60 frames per second. Well, you're not going to get that on most 4K TVs
yeah, and actually, um,
right now, anyway.
2 years ago, Seikei, I think that's how you pronounce it,
Yeah.
had a 39-inch 4K TV for 299. And I was looking at it mainly for video production,
Mm-hmm.
mainly post-production, editing commercials and such. Um, I mean, 4K, that's a lot of screens at 1080p that you could have on there with your scopes and whatnot.
Yep.
And then I saw 30 hertz, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
well, then I thought about it, and I was like, well, most commercials are shot at 29.9, and so that really wouldn't be bad. However, when you're using your mouse, the animation of the mouse, I do believe, is 60 frames per second, and that would be very choppy in 30 frames per second. So,
Well, I will tell you from my own experience, because I have a Steam machine also that's hooked to my 4K TV, and I had to go through my video card's HDMI port because it makes more sense on a TV.
yeah, yeah.
Well, my video card's HDMI port is limited to HDMI 1.4,
Ooh.
so I can't access the full 60 hertz that my TV can do with 4K.
Well,
Um,
there might be a way you can actually work a workaround is get a DVI to HDMI converter.
well,
That might.
my video card does DisplayPort
Oh, even better.
full. Yeah, it does full 60 hertz 4K over DisplayPort. I'm working on finding an adapter for that because I don't have a DisplayPort on my TV. But
Yeah, no, I don't think any do.
But I'll say that as far as the desktop goes, like there is no noticeable lag or anything whatsoever when using mouse and keyboard and stuff on a 4K TV at 30 hertz or less than 30 because The HDMI is limited to 24 hertz at full 4K.
Hmm.
So kind of like Blu-rays. So it's like it's no problem there. But when I got into games, that's when the problem showed up. I would run a benchmark, and the frame rates on the screen would show that I was getting far more frames than I could actually see because 24 hertz meant that I was only getting 24 frames per second that I could see, even though the game was pushing far more than that. So
That is crazy.
that's one thing that a lot of people aren't thinking about when they expect like this glorious 4K gaming. It's like,
well, see, here's the thing that there's good and bad to this. I mean, this is my opinion, of course, and I don't have any facts, but this is kind of how I think it's gonna go. As far as like Microsoft and Sony are concerned, the machines that they might bring out that are more up to date, they're calling it like PlayStation 4.5 or whatever. I don't honestly believe that'll be the case. I think it'll be PlayStation 4 and then now with 4K or something like that. I believe that it'll be both backwards and forwards compatible. The games that come out, you'll be able to buy a 4K PlayStation game that'll play in your PS4 at 1080p.
yeah,
It's going to be programmed to detect which hardware you have. Think about how the iPhone or any of the Android phones are. You have games that come out and they they're designed for the for instance, let's say the 6S, and that chip in there is just super fast compared to, let's say, the iPhone 5, but yet that game will run on the iPhone 5. It just won't look as good. I think that's how it's going to be.
Well, I actually thought about this last night, and what I think it is, and I think you're on the right track here, but I think it's going to be merely an upscale feature, where kind of like how the 360 added 1080p after it was launched for like 2 years, because when the 360 came out, it didn't even have HDMI, and
No.
so therefore it didn't actually support 1080p immediately out of the gate. Like they had to
No,
patch it
'cause,
in.
yeah, technically, component at the time, and 1080p was never
1080i.
really, it was never tried. So the only way you could get anything close to it was using the VGA adapter, which, that's kind of rare. Not too many people have that.
I do.
So do I. I have the Dreamcast one too.
Yep,
Um, Hold on to those. Them things are like gold.
I know.
But my I don't know. My thinking really is like, I don't know if they're going to want to upscale. It is a possibility.
Well, here's
They
here's
could
what I was
release a
thinking.
PS4 that has, HDMI 2.0, but you have to remember the PlayStation VR is around the corner, and yes, they're saying that it's designed around PS4. They don't need the extra power, whatever. Um, Honestly, I think if they had the extra power, they're going to be able to get better games, but I don't think it'll come out this fall. They're not going to do that, especially with the momentum they have.
Well, let me explain this a little bit more, because at the time, 360 games were typically 720p or 1080i, until that 1080p patch came around and the HDMI port was integrated and stuff like that. But when that did happen, those 720p games and stuff were automatically upscaled to 1080p to fit your TV. They weren't like necessarily running in 1080p.
Yeah, it's
They
from
just
the display buffer.
Yeah, and so it kind of gave the illusion that you were getting a 1080p image, even though it's actually rendered lower. I remember Halo 3 was a big one where it was only actually like 600p or some crap like that, and
Yeah.
it would just upscale to whatever resolution your TV was set to. And I honestly really think that is more likely what we're gonna get with this upgraded PS4 and potentially Xbox One than actual true 4K gaming.
Thanks for listening to part one of my podcast, and part two I will have up shortly. Until then, happy gaming.